Hi, Hollywood Progressive Friends. This time it's just me and Nia. Uh, Sharon was on the East Coast this past weekend. This past weekend on Saturday, we attended a reprise of August Wilson's King Hedley II at the expansive A Noise Within stage in Pasadena. It's part of Wilson's 10-play Pittsburgh cycle, which chronicles the experience of the Black community in every decade of the 20th century. Each of his 10 plays takes takes uh, takes place in one of the decades. Hedley takes place in the 1980s, which was not an especially good time for African Americans. It was Ronald Reagan's presidency with trickle-down economics, and nothing trickled down. It was the explosion of the crack epidemic, and it was the rise of mass incarceration that was so nicely outlined in Michelle Alexander's A New Jim Crow. Powerful play. What did you think, Nia?
Yeah, so I had a couple of thoughts about this. First and foremost, this is probably what our maybe our third or fourth play that we've seen at A Noise Within, and as always, we're taken aback by the set. This was a beautiful set design, really creative use of I guess it was a screen, some sort of netting that when the lights were on, it looked like a house. It looked like a full house was on the stage. And then once they turned the lights behind it off, you could see through it. And they had, I assume, the Pittsburgh skyline somewhere. So you could see sort of the city off in the distance. There was also um, they had put a lip around the edge of the stage so that they could fill the stage with rocks, gravel, I'm not sure what the right word is there, little small rocks to show that this was outdoors and in the backyard. And they even somehow rigged a little hole so they could look like they were digging and planting things. It was really creative, really creative. I absolutely believe that we were in the back of a house. And the actors that, again, the actors were phenomenal. They did a wonderful job with this script. Really making it their own. I thought they all gave a great performance. Excuse me. Yeah, they were a joy to watch, uh, putting in their all. I have a few other things, but I want to take a breath here and let my dad speak about sort of the set and the
Right.
acting before we both go a little deeper.
Right. So I agree. I mean, it's a gorgeous theater to attend to play. And as I mentioned in my few words, I mean, there was a heavy social justice theme to it. And in fact, August Wilson wrote his plays for just the audience that was there, which was 98 and 4/10% white. But he really wanted to show the Black experience to white audiences. I've read about that. And so you got a lot of the social justice. The people on the stage were driven to desperate edges. And the one play, King Hedley himself, he was branded a bully in second grade because he kicked a teacher. So he must have been 8 years old, and that carried through his whole school time. And so they channeled him in the best thing he could hope for, the biggest dream he could have was to become a janitor. And then he said he learned nothing in school, and his life went downhill from that. And the other characters, I mean, his mother is desperately waiting to get into public housing because money's always tight. I will say too, I mean, it's part of a 10-play cycle, and there's a lot of going back into the past. So there's a lot of fairly long soliloquies. It's kind of operatic, and the characters have to kind of tell what went on in the plays that preceded it in the 40s and the 50s. And that's kind of either novelistic or it's Shakespearean. Um, and thank God the actors do such a good job with it, because it kind of gets kind of off-putting. It's a long play, and you have to really hang with it to understand all the intricacies. I'm sure if well, I've seen probably 4 or 5 of August Wilson's plays over the past couple of decades. If you're way into it and you understand it, it's kind of like reading a William Faulkner novel, which refers to the 3 other novels he wrote about the same town in Mississippi. So it's fascinating if you keep up with it. And the actors deliver the lines in the long soliloquies remarkably well. You said you had more to say, Nene?
I did. So as you mentioned, this was I think either one of us said that it felt like watching Audible, where we're having a book read to us and then also, I guess, physically performed at the same time. It didn't, the what's the word? The pacing of the play, the writing of it did not feel like play. It felt very like a novelization. There was a lot of talking. There were a lot of big moments that you could feel the playwright, Mr. Wilson, obviously wanted these big moments in, and then just, started with the big moments and wrote backwards. So you have these sort of lead up moments and then these big 5-10 minute long, almost monologues, some of them, were mostly just one character sort of unloading all of their burden, which I agree with the content of the play. I agree that it is a decent depiction of Black life in the 80s and the struggle of the Black man and the struggle of the Black woman at the time. And for the woman, or I guess for both of them, the struggle of various age groups within the Black community. But it was it was very, I guess expository is the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
It was very just sort of word vomit, sort of is coming out and being performed, which sounds like a play. Hearing it, that does sound like what a play is, but the way that this is written, it felt very much like I was listening to a novel being read to me by someone on a stage, as opposed to characters living a life that I have a viewpoint in on, if that helps clarify. Sharon, our third counterpart, who devastatingly was not able to make it to this August Wilson play, much to her chagrin, she did share that August Wilson is not her favorite playwright, but knowing that we were going to see it, she did not share much more information as to why. I don't know if she had, I'm sure my father already knew the reasons why, but I did not. And so I went in with a very clear head, and I immediately saw the problems that I'm sure she experienced or experiences with August Wilson plays, which I need to remember to ask her about them and what she remembers. But so there was a lot of the angry Black man trope in this. The Black anger, absolutely justified. There's a lot for the Black community to be angry about. And I do think there were certain aspects of the writing that very accurately do sort of depict what could go on in certain conversations. However, King, I believe his name was King Hedley II, the main character in the play, almost had that sort of like, I am Black man, I am angry, and I am stuck in my anger sort of, feel to it. And it was just a very flat sort of representation with only that one aspect of the man being shown, to the point where there were several times I was sitting there and I thought, this is such a two-dimensional character. He is solely just focused on his anger, and without any sort of minimal human taking in the surrounding sort of situation. So there, I see the issues. I saw the issues with the play and you know how the playwright chose to write this play. And as my dad said, this is one of, I think, 10 different plays with, I don't know if they're all connected, but certainly I think I read 3 or 4 of them ended up being very connected with characters from 1 or 2 of the other plays showing up in this one. And because each play is from a different decade, these other plays, I assume, are from the past and from when these characters were younger. And yeah, we lost out on that connection to those characters because of that, because we didn't see their struggle. We heard about it. They spent 10 minutes monologuing about it, but that doesn't quite build the same sort of character connection that I like to see and feel. As we've seen with some of our other plays, I'm reminded of Freight, which was the same concept, but put into one play. And we connected with every single character in that play because we were taken on the journey with them. So I am pretty sad that I missed out on that. I guess we'll just have to see all 9 other plays at some point just to make those connections. I'm not sure what your other, if you had any other thoughts about
Yeah,
that.
so Wilson's either the Pittsburgh Chronicle or the American Chronicle. 9 of the plays take place in the Hill District of Pittsburgh, and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom takes place in Chicago. I would say I'm not sure King was the central character. I mean, I wrote a little review that we're going to accompany this with, and it seems like his mother Ruby was the real strong one who was trying to put her son back on a good path after he'd spent 7 or 8 years in prison for murdering somebody for calling him
Champ.
Champ. Don't call me Champ because my name is King. And it seemed, and it was odd. I mean, so all the men were it wasn't just King that was angry. They were all kind of lost souls. And they largely leaned on the women in the play, the 2 women, King's mother and his wife, to help them get back on the straight and narrow. The problem is they didn't have many resources. They themselves, they worked, but they, you know, and the men didn't help situation by all of them packing heat. And I understand that neighborhood must have been dangerous, but packing heat led to where packing heat leads. So Ruby, the mother, was apparently in an earlier play, I think it was Fences. That's when she was the sexy lounge singer who attracted the guy who showed up, the Elmore, the rake that shows up, and I thought he was really well played with his fedora canted off to the side of his head, and he was like
Yeah, you really got scummy vibes from him, beginning, middle to end.
he was the prototypical con man.
Yeah.
He was back in town because he was getting older and he needed a soft place to land, and Ruby was going to be the place he was going to land. But she wasn't having it. She just wanted to get into senior housing and have some rest from all this nonsense.
And she had it. And then she was with it. There are some questionable character arcs.
Yeah, so it's a lovely performance.
Absolutely.
The acting, the emoting, it really rivets you. And the stage, as always, at A Noise Within is like the 7th character. You know, they do a wonderful job with that. It was a lot of
Absolutely.
fun. I always enjoy going to plays with you. I miss Sharon. It's true that she's not too keen on August Wilson, and
I
it's
understand.
kind of for some of the reasons we say. Um, it's also his take on Black life, I think, doesn't really resonate with her.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't resonate with you.
No, I'm not denying that there is a facet of Black life that he, at least in the one show that I've seen, I'm not denying that there is rage in the Black community. And yes, in some areas, if
Oh,
you call
yeah.
someone by the wrong name,
Hey,
there
Nia,
are what?
I forgot to hit record.
You did hit record.
Oh, I did. Okay. Sorry. I'll have
It's
to cut
okay.
that out. I'll have to
We'll
cut
cut that out. Um, I don't deny that there is, so I don't deny that he did hit a slice, a piece, a sliver of a fraction of some of Black life, but it is just that, and there is no alluding to the rest of their humanity. It is just this one tiny little sliver, that I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it's not accurate. It is accurate. There's a lot of rage and there's a lot of generational trauma and healing and the lack of resources that leads to very angry men who unfortunately have the means to take each other's life for calling because someone called them the wrong name. But there was no alluding to the rest of it, even with his wife being there who was pregnant. And she straight up told him, like, I don't want this kid because you're out here killing people because they called you by the wrong name. And now you're out trying to, like, you just got out of prison and now you're out trying to basically put yourself back in. And his response, almost verbatim, was, I hear you, baby, but I'm going to keep doing me. I'm going to do me and you can't stop me.
right.
And it's just such a narrow
Well,
view.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. And there is, in some ways, it's a little hopeless because none of the characters really escape.
Grow, learn.
Yeah,
It's just a big venting play. They all just sort of vent their anger
right.
and uh the Ruby's love interest when he comes back, it turns out he's been holding this grudge the whole time, and he finally lets that out inexplicably, and it turns into the whole climax of the play at the end, and it's just it's wild. And again, it's just a very little slivers, like just this little sliver because it looks good and it's easy to write and it catches people's attention. I'm sure rage and sex catches people's attention if they're not interested. So I hope that anyone who goes to see this play, and I'm sure any of his other plays, and any play in general, I hope you see it. I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope that you ask questions. I hope you ask, well, why were they so angry? Why was there just anger in this play? Is that an accurate representation? You know, does that really reflect humanity? Does that reflect the humanity of Black people? And I hope you ask these questions and have these conversations and think about what it is that you're consuming. And this, I guess this goes for anything, any show, any music, any movie that you see. Ask questions.
Great. Okay. So on that note, we also saw a play on Sunday that we will review in the near future. Just me and Nia again, a very different play, a lighthearted play.
Very
So
light.
thank you, people. See you next time.
Thank you for sticking around. If you like the LA Progressive content and the discussions we have here, please consider clicking the subscribe button below and also give us a thumbs up. That helps to grow our audience by feeding the algorithm, which helps to get this content in front of more eyes. Thanks for stopping by. We really appreciate your support.